Good afternoon. This is the Devar Torah on Parashat Haazinu, the next to last parsha in the entire Chumash, the five books of Moses. Usually, this parsha is read between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and most of the parsha is they're warning what will happen to the Jewish people if they stray from Hashem's ways, which did historically, and in it is encompassed the whole history. It also encompasses how we can correct ourselves. There were also deeper allusions to it in regarding the creation of the universe and how that's connected to Rosh Hashanah, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. However, this year it comes out after Yom Kippur, and the next Yom Tov we're going to have after that Chag is Sukkot. Now, one of the themes of Sukkot is, in fact, the Haftorah, the Shabbat Chol Hamoed in the middle of Sukkot, is talking about the battle of Gog and Magog, which I'll be speaking more about in another Devar Torah, and it's dealing with the theme of our ultimate redemption. So, is there any allusions to that here? And I'm going to quote a few pasukim from it. And it says in Pasuk 40, Ki esav el mishamayad yadi vermati chai anochi le'olam. I lift my hand at heaven and I say, I live forever. This is just Shabbat Shem talking. V'im shanuti barech v'charivi tocheni v'mishpat yadam v'ishi nachut nachad l'sara mishashani ashelem. And I will wet my lightning sword and grasp my judgment in my hand. That's talking, that's going to be mishpat. In other words, there's not going to be any rakamim. He's primarily talking about the nations. And it says, and it then goes on to say, and I will make my arrows, I will grasp lightning sword and grasp judgment in my hand. I will bring vengeance against my foes and repay those who hated me, which is talking about all of the nations that ever desecrated Hashem's name and persecuted his people. And it then goes on to say, Ashkir Chatzi Nida, Harbi Yochol Basa, Midas Halal Shavia, Meirosh Faro Oev. And Barosa Ave, and it says, I will make my arrows drunk with blood, my sword consuming flesh. The enemy will be, his first punishment will be the blood of the slain and wounded. And then it says, and this sounds a little strange, Avoy Hagayim Amo, Kidam Avo Yakum, Nakei Ish Sarah, Kopa Adama Amo. For let the tribes of his nation sing praise, for he avenged his servant's blood. He will bring vengeance upon his foes and reconcile his people to his land. Now, what is a little unusual here, we're talking about this is the ultimate redemption, which is the theme of Sukkot. However, and it says what's going to happen to the nations. Now, it is brought down that after the final redemption, when we're all gathered in the land and when Mashiach will come, and all the other events of that time, it says we will forget the events of Egypt. Not that we will literally forget them, but the events of then will be greater. Why? Because at that point, not only will be vengeance, in the case of Mitzrayim, Egypt, only one nation was punished by God, that was Egypt itself, even though there were a number of other nations that deserved it. But this time, all of the 70 nations, anybody who has persecuted us throughout our history, Hashem will take vengeance on. And I'll explain in a minute, it extends even further. But there's one unusual clause here. But then he says, he will bring vengeance and reconcile his people to his land. Now that has a double meaning. One meaning is that we're all going to be brought back, but another meaning is how is he going to, what does he mean he's going to decide he's going to reconcile his people into his land. One of the meanings, as the Or HaChaim explains, is that it's going beyond that. That it says that, as earlier in this and another place in the Chumash, that we will ultimately turn to Hashem, and then we'll be brought back, and there'll be the redemption. Now, the question that always remains open: what about those people who have not yet reconciled, and the Jews who have not turned to Hashem's way? And it says that the land will reconcile for them, meaning they'll be suffering in the land. We're going to be going through all kinds of events um, which will bring everybody back to Hashem and back to the Torah. However, it means that in the Ek of Mashiach, the birth pangs of Mashiach, it's going to be, in those events, we're still going to suffer challenges. While I'm not connecting any particular current events to these prophecies per se, but we've been through now a 2-year war on 7 fronts, which Hashem has miraculously delivered us. Unfortunately, again, we've suffered a lot of chayalim and civilian casualties. However, this is all in fulfillment, as God is saying here, of the redemption. And what will that redemption look like? And briefly, it says in Shabbat Halamed that all the nations will attack us, challenge us, and they would said, we made a mistake. Up to now, we've done battle with the Jewish people. Now we're going to do battle with God. It's going to end up, as the Yehezkel's prophecy said, that literally there'll be so much stuff left over from the defeated army that there'll be enough supplies for 7 years. However one is going to interpret that, will only know when the events actually occur, or may have already occurred. But there is this positive thing. As we're going into Yom Kippur, we'll hopefully get a year of forgiveness. We'll get a year that will bring us to the redemption. And after that, we will be rejoicing with Hashem in Sukkot, and this final holiday of Shmini Atzeret, Simchas Torah. Rejoicing God in His Torah. However, we've seen that also has a connection, unfortunately, to the events of October 7th. But in any event, it's all prophesied here in this Parsha that we will have an ultimate redemption. There'll be some challenges, but we're getting very close to that stage now as we see events unfolding. I wish everybody a meaningful and easy fast, since I'm recording this before Yom Kippur, and a good Shabbos and Shabbat Shalom. And may we see the beginning of redemption in this year.